Drew, good to see you, man. Welcome to Popternative.
Hello, Petey. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you about boot camp. I feel like it's one of those things, man, where it's like, that script to screen journey is really interesting to me, right? Because you read the script, you get to know these characters, and then it comes to life on screen. What was that like for you with this one, that screen to script journey, compared to past projects you've done in the past? I'm curious about that.
The difference on this one, well, it was actually book to script, then
Yep.
to screen. So this was sort of a different experience for me, especially working with Wattpad, getting familiarized with Wattpad, getting familiarized with Wattpad's audience, and really trying to understand the heart of the story that Gina wrote, the author of the book, first and foremost. So you're dealing with a Wattpad universe, and the Wattpad universe is a different type of market. It's like my mom loved Harlequin love novels growing up. She would read them all over the house. So I was sort of familiar with that, with what that world would look like. Trying to imagine that on screen is that was also like an interesting process too. So you have like three different types of movies. You've got the one that's in the book, you've got the one that's in the script, and then you've got the one that makes it out onto the screen. How that's gonna look come August 2nd, I'm excited for people to see. The script was really wonderful though, and it was a total blast just bringing Axel to life and getting to sort of play around with Mackenzie and Rachel Boudwin, my co-star too.
Over 26 million downloads on the Wattpad story, which
That's right.
is
Yeah.
insane. Is there a push and pull about how much though you are going to kind of like be invested in the original source material, like the Wattpad book? Like, I'm just curious, like, because like I feel like it depends, right? Like maybe you're gonna kind of take a look at it a little bit, maybe you're gonna throw it away and like focus just on kind of the live action film. Like, I'm just curious about that for you.
Right. Yeah. I believe the movie is very faithful to the original the book and especially its intent. With it being pretty much it's a story about Whitney Carmichael and which was played by Rachel Baldwin. It's about her character, her journey, finding love for herself and finding, being able to love others. Essentially, is the message of the book, and I believe we kept that going throughout with the movie. So
Yep.
I totally understand the push and pull of okay, there's expectations. There's 26 million people who've read this book. What is it going to match up to what we see on screen? I believe people will be really happy, and I do believe it accomplishes that.
We could do a series like a 1 hour weekly podcast series on this push and pull with like the book versus the movie, because at the end of the day I stand on this, like, yes, you're going to pay tribute, you're going to do it justice, but it's a movie, it's the movie, and there's the book,
Yes.
like they're going to be different no matter what, right? Like,
Yeah,
you think
totally. Yeah, no, trust me, as somebody who I'm an avid lover of like some IPs that I take very seriously, Lord of the Rings being one of them. Like I'm
oh my goodness, that's a good example of like
yeah, like people are very particular about and sort of what is written is sort of like Bible and like and I totally respect that. Uh the wonderful thing about this is that Gina, the author of the book, was able to visit set. She was able to come there with us. We had her with us every step of the way, which is wonderful. And she was super happy. She was excited about it. So if the author is, then you've got to know you're doing the right thing. And I think so long as you're not playing too fast and loose with their ideas, I think you'll have a good outcome.
that's so well said, man. And ask you this from kind of a storytelling acting perspective, but so much happens before you go to camera on boot camp, right? You're discussing everything, like you said, that really cool journey of like book, script, screen, right? And you're like talking to your co-stars and like figuring everything out and like talking to the director and writer. So from an acting storyteller perspective, it could be seen as two journeys, right? Before filming boot camp and after filming
Yes.
boot camp. Or do
Yeah.
you see it as one big journey with multiple steps in between? I'm curious about that.
No, I agree with your first sentiment. It is sort of two experiences for me.
Okay.
There's a moment sort of before and after, the final day and then everything else that comes after that. I try to be very cognizant of as an actor just being immersed sort of in portraying the character and being as faithful to the story that the writers and the director want and the producers what they want to do, the vision that they have. And so you're not sort of thinking about anything else other than that. And it's really just your job to be present in the moment, focusing on that experience. I think if you're thinking about things down the line, you're thinking about where is it going to go? How's it going to land? How's it going to be received? And what's my job after this? No, like I think that takes me personally out of enjoying the experience for what it is. Now, when they yell rap, that's a rap on everybody. Then, a gear sort of shifts in your brain. And that this wrapped up 2 years ago. It was a pretty long time. We had a strike in between all of this. And so it delayed the release of the film for some time. And so I've just been now dealing with it for the last 2 years, wanting everyone to see it,
Yeah.
feeling that excitement. And so I think it was good that I sort of separated both those experiences for what I could, because had I got caught up, let's say, not knowing a strike was going to come, maybe I would have focused on the wrong things, I guess is the way to answer that.
Well, dude, what you just said is a perfect example of why I get so excited about, doing interviews with, amazing storytellers like yourself, because like everyone says, oh my God, it's energy and everything, the hand gesture. But like, think about it, right? Like people are going to, on August 2nd, going to watch boot camp, right? And then like, if they ever talk to you or anything about like, oh, I love that scene or I love that, right? There's like over like 50 stories probably, right? That you have with the cast and crew about like how you got to that scene, not just the movie, you know what I mean? And how much work and how many conversations and how many kind of like going back to the drawing board. Like that's what gets me excited. It's what the craft represents, right? Like people, like you go to a movie theater, you watch a movie, it's like knowing how much went into it, I think is like makes me more excited about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're a huge fan of like movies and entertainment
I'm also
general.
creative as well. I'm a filmmaker as well.
Yeah,
So,
and as a creative, we sort of look at the movie going experience a little bit differently. We are looking at it when we're watching it. We're like, I wonder how they got that shot, or what was going on behind the
like,
scenes,
what
or
was that conversation like for that scene? Like,
what was everybody at the table talking about? How did they get this? Or was it a happy mistake? And I think a lot of times I saw this really, really interesting interview with Michael Caine yesterday, and he was talking about uh he had an acting teacher, or he went in for an audition, and he was supposed to be playing a drunk, and he came in and he was acting drunk very well, like he had it all dialed in. And the casting director said, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but said, what are you doing? And he said, well, my character's drunk. And they said, well, you're an actor playing drunk, but a real person who's drunk is going to be really trying to not appear drunk,
be drunk, like look like he's drunk. Yeah.
look like a drunk. So they're going to try and speak way more proper. They're going to try and keep themselves straight. And then in that comes like how, so then he said at the very end of this, he said that if the audience is sitting there saying to themselves, wow, what a wonderful actor that person is, as opposed to, I wonder what's going to happen next to this person, then I think that's the trick of like the movie stuff. And even if you're in the industry, and even if you are creative, that's the magic trick that we're all looking for. If we're sitting there being like, wow, this person's just such a great actor. Wow, what a great shot. What great CGI. I don't even want to notice the CGI. Like
We're
I want
such
to.
film geeks, eh, man?
Yeah. I am for sure. I could feel it in you as well, man, for sure.
No, it's so great that you said that's so interesting about the Michael Caine for sure. I love that stuff. I love the behind the scenes. That's kind of where I think my success with my interviews, because like my interviews are very like craft based and like how we got there, rather than like tell me about your character and stuff like that. And like there's worlds for both of them, right? You know what I mean? But I like kind of learning more about the craft because I find it's really cool.
Very refreshing. Very cool, man. Awesome.
I'm curious because at the end of the day, it's all storytelling, depending on the genres, depending on the characters, depending on the settings and everything, whether it's TV or film. How separate are past projects versus current or future projects for you? Like, do you bring things from Riverdale, mindset-wise, preparation-wise, to something like boot camp, or are they completely separate for you from an acting storyteller perspective?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day because there's obviously a step towards creating a character, and I think every actor has their own method about going about that. And I think when you start, you're looking for some like an anchor to like, you know, hold on to something that could help you progress as you continue to learn, and you sort of pick up things here and there. But I mean, I've been doing this now for a really long time, and the way I look at it metaphorically now is uh it's kind of like in my building, there's this pottery studio and where I live. And so I walk by this pottery studio all the time and I'm thinking about these pots and all the stuff that's displayed there, and everything is different. Every pot, every bowl, every mug, every vase, they're all different. And I kind of like to think that acting for me has turned into like metaphorically this I'm like this ceramic artist with pots, and
Mhm.
every character is going to be different. The methods that I use are going to be always there. But I try to now treat every character. I think there was a point. I think to answer your question, there was a point where there was a
Yeah,
specific method. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and make this pot exactly the same. I'm going to make the next pot like that. And everything is going to be lined up so that after a while, I can get really good at making this type of pot. But now
mhm,
I'm sort of more interested in looking at each story and each character for how unique they are, and shaping and crafting them in their own unique way, the way that they want to be. So it's less about perfection and more about, okay, I've got the skills, I've got the craft is there. Now let's just paint outside the lines and just have some fun. That's kind of where,
absolutely.
yeah.
One of the things in regards to Riverdale that I think is something that I feel like doesn't get talked about as much as it should be, in my opinion, is the global like success and like fandom of that show. Cause like
Yeah.
I feel like that if I would name you like top, like on top of your head, if someone stops me on the street and says like name the top five global fan bases of like a show, like
Sure.
Stranger Things would be up there,
Yeah.
Walking Dead would be up there, Riverdale would be up there, right? So I'm just like I'm asking you this like because the answer to this question might be maybe it never even like really hit you because it's so crazy. But like, when did you start realizing how global, like the global popularity
Mhm.
of that show? Like, was it like when you first kind of joined the show? Was it like after rapping? I'm just curious about that because that
Yeah.
it's crazy, man.
Well, it filmed in the town that I grew up in, or very close to. The pilot was shot in the same town that my mother teaches in.
Okay.
Uh, well, my mother is retired now for a year, but she was a teacher in this town called Mission, where they filmed the pilot.
Mhm.
And so I was, for me, the show is like it was this very popular show that
Faber Drive
filmed
is from Mission, BC. You know the band Faber Drive? They're from Mission,
Favor
BC.
Drive,
I'm
the
pretty sure.
show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, oh yeah, I haven't. I gotta look into Faber Drive. I'm not
They're
familiar with
like
Faber.
they were on Much Music a
Oh,
lot, but
no, there is Faber Drive a band?
yeah, it's a band. Yeah, Faber
Oh,
Drive, the
right.
band. Sorry,
Yes.
the band Faber Drive is from Mission. That's why I know Mission,
Yes.
BC because like
Right.
it just makes
And Carly Rae Jepsen is from there as
yes,
well.
yeah.
Um, so they for me, Riverdale was the show that was a big, popular, successful show in season one that filmed in the town that my mother taught in, very close to where I grew up. And so it felt actually kind of like close to home because it
Yeah,
literally was.
yeah.
And when it first started to occur to me that it was bigger than that was it happened in stages, but the first one was going to the diner where they shot the pilot with my two best friends. They woke me up at like 10 p.m. at night, and we're like, hey, we're going out to Rocco's Diner. And I was like, okay. I was sort of like discombobulated. They're like, just get in the car, we're going. I'm all right. And so we go to this diner and I'm like, what are we doing out here? Like, why are we driving all the way out to Mission? Well, we're out here to see Archie and Jughead. And I was like, Archie and Jughead, like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, that show Riverdale, it shot here. And we get there and there's a lineup out like around the block. There's people in there all dressed up as the characters. And I had never seen anything like that
Yeah.
in my life. I'd never been to a Comic-Con. I'd never been to growing up in BC, that just wasn't something that I was always familiar with. And like cosplay and all this stuff. And it really occurred to me how big the show was at that point. Now, when it became this thing that was global, when I really realized how big it was globally, I was in Paris doing my first convention, like Riverdale Con is what it was called,
Yep.
or RiverCon.
Yeah, they have their own con. Like if you think
Yeah. And you go there and you meet all of the fans that live in France and the surrounding regions, and they come out to see you. And I was sitting there at my table, and they brought over the gentleman who voices Fangs in the French version of the show. And so that's what it was for me, was I was like beating the guy who's voicing the character that I play in another language. And here he is, tangible. Wow, get to meet him. That's when I knew. I was like, this show, wow. Like the fact that my character has somebody in France who voices him, very cool.
so crazy. And then last quick question, getting back to boot camp, August 2nd, people are going to be able to finally check it out. I mean, it's a long time coming, so I'm so happy for you and the cast and the crew, man. It's amazing. Whether you've been in a set one time or thousands of times, you're always going to learn something new, right? You're always learning, right? Because it's like different sets, different kind of scripts and everything. What were some learning experiences for you on this from an acting storyteller perspective on boot camp specifically that you can take for future projects, you would say?
Something I learned. That's a good question. And you're right, you are always learning. To be honest with you, this was my first foray into at least sharing the screen as a lead with somebody else. This really is Rachel's story, Whitney story. This really is hers, and I was very lucky to be able to share the screen with her as her co-lead or lead. And that was a first for me. And I'd always been playing supporting characters or guest stars and that kind of thing. And so I guess what I learned was to really slow the process down and take my time. When you're a guest star, when you're a supporting cast member, if people don't know this, what a day like on set would look like is, you've got only a few takes and a few setups to really get your stuff out and to make a mark and to do your best acting that you can do. And a lot of times there's the pressure to like really get out there and nail it. This time around, I said, I'm going to really allow myself the ability to sort of breathe through this and take my time and explore within the scenes and make the cameras disappear as much as I can and just be focused on what we're doing. And as the two characters. So I learned, I guess it seems cliche or whatever to say, I learned to slow the process down, but that is truly took me a lot of years to learn to just say, breathe, slow it down. Everything's going to be okay, and just enjoy and play and have fun.
Dude, I feel like we're playing baseball because you're hitting home runs off all these answers, man. Holy smokes, man. So good.
Yeah.
I can't wait for people to check out Boot Camp August 2nd. They can check that out. Drew, so great chatting with you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Likewise, Petey, you're wonderful, man. Breath of fresh air, really great stuff, and really happy I got a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, cool, absolutely. Your Instagram account is just your name, right? Drew Ray Tanner. People want to keep updated with everything.
Drew Ray Tanner, simple, yeah. And Boot Camp comes out August 2nd on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and video on demand, and it'll be in select theaters. Followed by August 27th, it'll be available in Canada.
This guy's a pro. The plug. That's perfect. Well, this has been Pop Turnative. YouTube.com/Pop Turnative previous episodes. Until next time, so Drew Ray Tanner and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Pop Turnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Pop Turnative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.